So it's been about 2 years since the premiere of No Time to Die, and they say time heals all wounds, but are there even wounds to heal for some people? I know that this has been an ongoing conversation, but I thought that we would revisit No Time to Die for a host of different friends from around the globe, maybe even a family member or two, and ask a very simple question. Has the film gotten better or worse over time, or has it sort of just stayed the same in the eyes of the beholder? Conversation we're going to have. Stay tuned. Hello, David Zritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome back. Look who I got. I got none other than Mark Hazard, not my father-in-law. He's back. You survived Gatherall.
I did.
You had a good time?
Yes.
I think you're officially part of the Bond community now.
Well, I didn't plan it that way.
No, you didn't. You just thought you would show up, have a cigar, have a little nibble, and then you'd leave.
Pretty much.
What was the side effect? What happened, though? You actually enjoyed people's company?
Yes, it was rather enjoyable. A lot of interesting people. And all in all, it was a nice day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, one thing that happened as a crazy side effect, he couldn't have known this, that our last video and then even Gatherall, people started to get very interested in what he had to say. Finally, his wife doesn't care. I could care less. But I do what you people tell me to do, so he's back to talk about No Time to Die. Now, the premise of this whole video is I'm gathering some people, loved ones, friends that I know from across the globe, and they're sharing 2 years on what is their experience today with No Time to Die. What's their point of view? Now, go back 2 years. How did you watch the film? Did you see it in the theater? Did you see it on DVD?
No, I saw it from your living room.
Oh, so you didn't, the first time you watched it was not until...
Exactly.
Holy cow. So maybe you actually saw it when it came on streaming.
No, we actually, I guess it was a movie at the time, and you were
Still
able
is.
You were able to get it on your home screen.
That's right. I think we got a press copy and things like that. What was your first impression when you first saw the movie 2 years ago?
Well, I couldn't really tell you too much about it because I kind of fell asleep.
Oh, back then?
Back then, yeah.
All right. It just didn't hold your interest.
Yes, it didn't hold my interest.
Oh, no. All right.
The dialogue I found very difficult. The sound, for some reason, I couldn't. It was like a foreign film.
Oh,
I couldn't understand the dialogue.
was that just Safin? Because Safin had this strange, Count Chocula type, da do da dee da da.
That may have been part of it.
Okay. And then you thought Bond was mumbling a little bit?
I think the acting, it could have been better as far as projecting.
Okay.
The
You wanted it to come from his diaphragm.
well, not necessarily, but it could have been, a little clearer.
That's not a prophylactic. I mean,
No.
From here, from the
Yes.
bottom of the stomach out.
Yeah, like when you sing.
Yes. Well, all right. So let's explore this a little bit because I asked you to do something very unfair and possibly mean. I asked you in preparation for this video to rewatch 2 years later the movie and tell us what happened.
Well, reluctantly, I did watch it.
So you're putting it on and you're like, I don't even want to do this, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it was kind of like pulling teeth.
So you were not interested in it.
Yeah, pretty much so, yeah.
And how far did you get?
About halfway through.
You did get halfway through. That's the best part of the movie. You may have shut it off at the right part.
Oh, all right.
So what part did you shut it off? Right after Cuba or something like that? Or it was hard to even remember?
No, when he went back to the the chalet where they lived, and I guess
Oh,
he first met his daughter,
that's pretty far in.
and she rolled a slinky down the stairs, I believe.
And then you're
And
like,
that's when I shut it off.
that's it. I'm done with this movie. Was it
I didn't have any
literally
more time to watch the rest of it.
Well, I was going to say, all right. I mean, but this is an important thing that we need to dissect here.
Yeah.
Was it the fact that, oh my gosh, really, it's daughter's rolling the slinky, I've had it with this, or was it an accumulation of things?
I don't know. It's hard to describe it.
Yeah, but I'm asking you to because people are watching. So try.
Hard
to hear.
To start.
Hard to hear.
Hard to hear. Yeah.
How was the action for you? Satisfying?
It was all right.
Oh boy.
There were some parts there that were interesting.
Did you like this version of Bond? You got kind of a softer, more family-oriented Bond.
I think it kind of evolves into that toward the end.
Okay.
If I remember from the first time we watched it, I saw him at the end clutching the doll.
Yeah. Now that you're part of the Bond, I'm not going to hurt you.
Not really.
Now that you're part of the Bond community. Stop denying it. All opinions are welcome, even yours. Barely yours, but even yours. So, do you want to ask me?
I like the Connery Bond. It was more true to the character.
Now, do you like him because he's kind of rough and tumble and
it was
cool,
more
calculating?
At the time, you get away with more misogynistic, sarcastic humor, dark humor. More in tune with the kind of personality that like this individual would be. The way it was written. Actually, when I read that,
you just showed your colors, sir.
Yeah, when I read that version of
Anthony Horowitz book, you mean?
Anthony Horowitz.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That's what came to mind. I was envisioning Connery.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
it seems like the Connery Bond and even the Roger Moore Bond, they tend to have fun. Like they're going out.
Especially Moore. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just enjoying it. Where you haven't asked, but I'll just kind of throw in. I did watch the movie again after 2 years, and like you, it has not grown on me in a positive way. I do find certain parts interesting. I think visually, some of it looks interesting, the whole stuff with the DB5.
Right.
But frankly, I think it's a weak bad guy, still continues to be a weak bad guy right behind here, Safin. And I also think that it feels a little bit all over the place. Like I'm not too sure what it wants to be at the end. What do you think?
Well, I think I don't get the mask. Maybe I forgot what it was all about.
Oh,
the Phantom of the Opera mask.
yeah. I think he was. Well, it is strange because it's not like he was trying to disguise himself, but maybe he didn't want to frighten anybody. But then again, he had a machine gun, so good point. But that's the thing. It feels like this has a lot of Swiss cheese plot holes that don't quite fit in all together. I think there were some good moments, but I think there's some uneven moments. Like Bond, to your point, is a little bit different at the beginning of the film than he is at the end of the film.
Yes.
You could say there's a character arc, but there's nothing really to make him go through that other than the slinky and the child. That can't be a plot point.
No. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you probably will not be revisiting this film.
I don't know. I might finish it, at a certain point.
Yeah.
Since I started, maybe I can get something more out of it. I don't know.
You know what it is, finishing that movie? It's almost like, you ever have a toothache and, you touch your tongue to it and you shouldn't, but it hurts, but it also feels good at the same time. Maybe that's how it is. Hey, listen, we're going to take a break because we're actually going to show you what some of my friends from around the world have talked about 2 years on, what they think of No Time to Die after rewatching it. Let's check this out.
Good evening, Mr. Bond fans. Calvin Dyson here, and my opinions of No Time to Die 2 years on are much the same as they were 2 years ago, perhaps disappointingly. This is still a film with the highest of highs and the lowest of lows for Craig's entire tenure for me. There's so much that I love about it, the pre-titles, Cuba, all the action's really great. I think that Wishaw and Harris are particularly good in this one, and I think that Craig delivers a fine performance as James Bond, and I like that the story is taking Bond to places that we've never seen in a film before, and yet it's in the execution of some of these story ideas that I think the film really falls apart, and I think so much of it comes down to the fact that Safin is a really weak villain, quite possibly my least favourite main villain of the entire series, and he needed to be airtight if he was ultimately going to be the villain to kill James Bond. And the ending is such a downer. It feels like a film that started at we are going to kill James Bond in this film and worked back from there, which ultimately leaves it being the ultimate in the Bond blue balls experience for me.
Hello, Jeroen, better known as Dutch Bond fan for the Bond experience. Welcome back. David asked me 2 years on from No Time to Die, has my opinion changed since the release of the movie? And to keep it short, it hasn't. If you're aware of my channel, you may have come across my extensive retrospective review series that I call my Recapping 007 series. And I'd say all of my opinions I shared in my large 2-part episode covering No Time to Die remains the same. But to summarize some of that, I feel No Time to Die has a great production value, an excellent action sequence in Cuba, which to me is probably the highlight to the whole film, one of the best pre-title sequences in all of Bond, both in the action and the emotional department, and not just with Bond splitting up with Madeline, but also reflecting back on Vesper, honestly putting Quantum to shame, because those couple of minutes translated more emotion to me than that entire film. But to me, the ending heavily overshadows most of the positive feelings I have on the film. I am in the camp who dislikes Bond's killing, because no one is going to remember this one as the one in which Felix dies, or Blofeld dies, or Bond gets a daughter, which are all huge first-time moments, but you're going to remember this as the one in which Bond is killed. He just gives up, and it's so unlike the embodiment of survival I feel Bond should always be. It's so dominant in forming my opinion on the film. I also still feel exactly the same about the character of Nomi, which to me was purely written to cause backlash and serves no real purpose. She gets the 007 number just so people can say, oh look, a strong female agent of color is now 007. It's supposed to be very contemporary, but even when she reinstates Bond's number, she doesn't get any new number assigned. That's just how pointless that whole aspect was. And she doesn't even do that much in the film. Like, where was she when Bond's family is attacked in Norway, showing up all cocky afterwards, late to the party? I find her character absolutely unstandable and very forced. I'd take Paloma over her any day of the week. There is a lot to like in No Time to Die, and there are definitely moments I find myself just enjoying the film. It's far from the worst Bond film, but to me, that feeling of disappointment was unfortunately a lot larger than a feeling of pride.
Okay, first things first. She went back to Norway and got the V8. Right? I mean, she had a whole load of assassins set up to her place, but still thought, I'm going to go back and get the V8 and drive it back to Matera. Why not? Okay, Pete Brooker here from Tailors with Love. No Time to Die. Look, I've said it 100 times. The main problem with No Time to Die is that Bond is supposed to be this empty vessel into which you can decant all of your feelings, emotions, and expectations. And if Bond is brimming with emotions, and here Bond is overspilling with emotions, where does that leave you? You've got no place to go. You can't live vicariously through Bond. So that's one problem. The second problem is that it's not a very creative movie. I mean, A View to a Kill has Bond chase Mayday when she jumps off the Eiffel Tower. He then jumps onto an elevator, gets into a taxi, jumps off a ramp on top of a bus. He goes through a barrier, gets his car chopped in half, then he jumps off a bridge. That's all in within like 30 seconds. I don't know if this film has got a creative bone in its body, and that's a little bit harsh to say, but I will say that it really does try. I mean, they threw everything at this film. It looks beautiful. It looks brilliant. The gunplay at the end is fantastic. The best gunplay in any Bond film is at the end of this film, and that's probably about it. And Roger's barking. All right, Roger. All right. Yes.
Hi, I'm author Roland Hume, and 2 years on from the premiere of No Time to Die, well, I think about the movie now exactly the same way as I thought about the movie when I first watched it, which is not the prevailing opinion. I actually adored No Time to Die. I loved it from beginning to end. It was a wonderful experience to watch. I was going to go with some Bond fans. My kids begged me to take them, so I sat down with my kids, and they saw their first Bond movie in the movie theatre, and they also saw the effect it had on me, and I loved it. I cried on 2 occasions in No Time to Die. The first was when James and Madeline were zooming into town in the Aston Martin, the musical sting from We Have All the Time in the World played. I was like, I clung to my seat, and I was like, what a time to be a Bond fan. And I cried at the end, okay? I know people didn't like the end, and that should never happen again, but after 25 movies, maybe they'd earned it. And I did cry at the end. I loved the movie. It was wonderful.
Hey, David, Luke here from Bond's Apartment, YouTube and Instagram. The question asked, 2 years of No Time to Die. How does it hold up? Is it good? Is it bad? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? It's got a similar feel to Die Another Day, as in for a good chunk of the movie, it's really good. Different than Die Another Day, it's farther into No Time to Die. It's still good. I think an hour and a half, it's still good. And then the ending just ruins it for me. 2 years later, I've still only probably seen it when I've absolutely had to. Press events, making my wife watch it for the first time, things like that. This is not a film that I gravitate towards when I'm in the mood to watch a Bond film. I don't want to feel like somebody has kicked my dog, if you know what I mean. The ending, I just can't get past it. It's unfortunate because as a film, it hits on all the emotions. It's got drama, it's got action, it's got heartbreak, it's got love, it's got comedic moments, it's got a decent story. But as a Bond film, just doesn't do it for me. 2 years later, same thing. I think the only thing different is 2 years later, I can accept the ending a little better than I did when I first saw it. When I first saw it, I was in shock and disbelief and sad, and I wanted to cry. I think I did cry. I think I've cried most times when I watch this film. And that's not how I want to feel after watching James Bond. James freaking Bond, you know? That's it for me. Thanks, David.
No Time to Die. What can I say? It's still a great movie. I still like so many scenes of it. There's so many good elements. For example, the score, of course, the clothing. There's so many products from the Q house that we see. There's so many things I collected. I really like the DB5 action scene, like the Gatling guns behind the headlights, and then the music that comes on. It's just a scene I can watch again and again. It still looks great. I love, of course, the Paloma action scene in Cuba. Then there's the ending. I wish they had made it a little bit more ambiguous if Bond died or not. Spoiler alert. Just to keep it open, and even if they change actors, there could still be another one. I think that would have avoided a lot of issues and still make it just as exciting. So I'm just looking forward to Bond 26. No Time to Die. I still rate it pretty high. It's probably in the middle of all my Bond movies, but it's definitely a lot higher than Spectre.
Hey everybody, Kyle Barbeau, Instagram's Easy Smiles and Expensive Watches, with a 2-year anniversary mini review of No Time to Die, the 25th James Bond film. And I have to tell you, this is a really difficult one for me to rank. I've got conflicting emotions about this. On the one hand, from a filmmaking point of view, it's really well made. The performances are good, the music is okay. It's not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite. The action, I think, is spectacular. Some of the cinematography is great. The colors, it has a lot of things that I want in a movie. Having said that, it has a lot of things that I don't want in a James Bond movie. I don't like the moody, brooding atmosphere that we get in a lot of the Daniel Craig films, and quite frankly, it's cranked up to 11 in No Time to Die, and let's face it, spoiler alert, he dies. That's not something I want in a James Bond movie. I want my hero to be victorious. That's one of the reasons why it's fun to watch these films. It's a little escape from reality. We know the hero is going to win, and it makes it more fun. Knowing that James Bond is going to die has made this movie a little bit infrequently rewatched. I've probably watched it twice since getting the Blu-ray here. It's just not one that I'm going to put on a Sunday morning when I want to relax with a Bond film. But it's really good as a film. So sitting down and watching it, you really concentrate, and I can get sucked into it. But it's still not, it's not going to get as many fingerprints on the DVD or the Blu-ray as something like Tomorrow Never Dies, for example, or The Spy Who Loved Me, or Goldfinger. One of those movies that I'm just going to sit back and enjoy. However, it did introduce me to a new friend, and without No Time to Die, I wouldn't have doo-doo.
What's going on, Bond fans? Jeff Weibo here, James Bond Canada. No Time to Die, 2 years old now. What do I think of it? Now, myself, I kind of started in the military kind of around the time where Daniel Craig took the reins in Casino Royale. And now here I am with a family and with young children at the end of my kind of career. So it's very fascinating how my own life and a bit of the Daniel Craig tenure has it's mirrored. So No Time to Die was definitely a special movie, and anytime I get to go to the premieres, and I've been fortunate enough to go to Skyfall, Spectre, and now No Time to Die, those ones are more than just the movie to me. It is that experience. I understand what happened in No Time to Die. Bond still passed his mission, and I give it a thumbs up, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Hello, my name is Thomas, and I run the podcast and YouTube channel British Culture, Albion Never Dies, which asks the question, what is Britishness, and what could be more British than Mr. Bond, James Bond? I'm a huge fan of the original writings of Mr. Ian Fleming. I enjoy the movies. They often draw on the middle of the pack novels, Goldfinger and Dr. No being typical examples. I really enjoy the ending of the book series, specifically, say, You Only Live Twice and The Man with the Golden Gun. The movie No Time to Die drew very much on that latter half of Fleming. Seeing that on screen, something unique and different and interesting. And I, for one, very, very much enjoyed it.
Now, I want to speak directly to the people who outright hate No Time to Die, and I know that 60 seconds is not enough time to convince you of anything, but I just watched it again on James Bond Day, and I know I'm in the minority, but you know what? I still really like it. No, it is not a perfect film by a long shot. There are plot holes, there are missed opportunities galore, but for me, the good just really outweighs the bad. Now look, I could talk about the competent direction and the amazing cinematography, but you don't care. I could talk about the incredible action of the pre-titles, but you don't care. I could talk about the awesome action in the forests of Norway, but you don't care. I could talk about the wild Cuba scene with Paloma, but you don't care. I know what you really care about. You really care about the killing of James Bond, but you know what? I just didn't care. And maybe I should have cared more. Maybe I should have had a more visceral response the way you did, but I kind of like it when every once in a while a Bond movie ends on a down note. To me, that feels more like Fleming. Could the script have been worked through better to make that moment feel more earned? Absolutely. But in the end, I'm absolutely fine with this as a way to put an exclamation mark at the end of the Craig tenure and close off this experiment. And by the way, if Christopher Nolan comes along and signs on to do a trilogy, doing these films as period pieces, you know what? I'll be on board with that. So listen, if you haven't seen this one in a while, I encourage you, give it another try. Again, the Craig world, the Craig tenure, it was just one experiment in the world of James Bond. The next one will be different and hopefully a little more to your liking. Maybe a little more fun, a little more playful like we kind of like. But again, if you haven't seen this one in a while, give it another shot.
No. No, they won't kill him. No.
I know.
Need to speak to David. Need to speak to David. David, hi, it's Mark. Views from Mark on Instagram and YouTube. You said I could call you anytime, buddy, and I'm afraid I needed to call you, so I'm sorry I've missed you, but I'll leave you a message anyway. I just had this recurring dream again, that it's 2 years on from seeing No Time to Die, and I still can't get past these key points that we had a movie that, in my dream anyway, it started brilliantly with a sequence in Matera that was the pre-titles that had all these great Bondian ingredients. It had the location, it had a DB5, it had the action taking place of, you know, this DB5 with Gatling guns doing donuts in a town square and taking out bad guys, and there was a great musical score, and there was this heist in London where this piece of technology was stolen from a lab, and the movie went on and it seemed like everything was going really, really well, but then it got to this middle point of the movie and things started to feel slightly off, and there was this great car chase in Norway with Land Rover Defenders, there was a helicopter and motocross bikes, and then it all kind of went into this foggy forest where I swear I saw an Ewok in the background, but that's a discussion for another time. But everything after this chase in Norway just seemed to fall flat and not add up and not make sense. There had this villain that was on this island, and it had been like a family home where his dad had had this poison garden, which is all the ingredients for a Bond villain and a Bond film, but it just seemed to fall flat because his motivation seemed all over the place. 1 minute he was wanting to make the world a tidier place, and it seemed like there was a higher purpose to everything he was doing, not just taking out Spectre. But then in the next moment, he's just selling to the highest bidder to make money. I just couldn't get my head around it, and his elocution was so poor, sometimes it was hard to understand actually what he was saying. But the worst thing of all about this nightmare that I keep reliving in my head was, at the very end of the film, Bond basically gives up and sacrifices himself, which in the grand scheme of things I wouldn't have a problem with had it been earned. When I come out of a Bond film, I don't know about you, but I'm sure it's the same, I come out feeling like I could take on the world and punching the air with joy and having a feeling of elation, and I just didn't get that with this, you know, and I keep having this nightmare. I think you may have been right. I need to start therapy and talking to someone about this because the pain is still there. Anyway, I appreciate your time and listening to these ramblings of a Bond fan, but it's good to share. I hope you're well, and I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thanks. They killed Bond.
All right, we're back. What did you think of those? What'd you think? Yeah, I mean, what do you think of their opinions?
I guess everybody's entitled to one, right?
Well, absolutely.
Or two.
Yeah. And what do they say about opinions? They're just like...
Everybody's got one.
They're like butts? Everybody's got one and they all stink? Something like that?
No.
Oh.
It's just everybody's got a different opinion, I suppose.
I think so. Well, here's the other thing, too, as you heard. This is such a divisive movie in the Bond community. Yeah, because a lot of people certainly didn't like the fact that he gets killed. But then even when people who liked the movie started fencing, that's my fencing pantomime, they sort of go back to, no, but other than that, if it wasn't for Bond getting killed, would you like the movie? And many people are saying no, because of the plot point, because of how Bond acts, because this is the godfather of James Bond films. Everybody dies. You've got the bad guy, you've got Bond, you've got Felix, you've got Blofeld who dies. Look at all the deaths in this.
Yeah. And some of these actors, I mean, on their own, did very well in other, productions.
Yeah. You know who else died? Probably the saddest. Doo the rabbit
Oh,
died.
well,
That little stuffed rabbit.
yeah. Well,
You've had it with this movie, haven't you? I could tell. You have had it. You've had it with this movie like towards the end of visits when you come here. You've had it with me. I feel like it's that same, like, David was somewhat charming at the beginning of the visit, but now I've had
This is
it.
what David does.
What does David do? What does David like? What does Vargas like? All right, here's how we're going to clean this palette. We're going to have a palette cleanser. Tonight, we are going to watch the most Sean Connery James Bond movie there
Dr.
is.
No?
We can watch Dr. No.
Oh, which is the one you're referring to?
I was going to say it was going to be From Russia with Love,
Okay.
or Goldfinger, which is a
Yeah,
very...
they're all yeah.
They're all good.
Yeah.
Did you like You Only Live Twice?
Let's see, which
You
one?
only live twice. It's when he goes to Japan. That's what they, little Nelly and Tiger Tanaka. You only live. Dum da da dum dum.
They're all
Dum
melding
da da dum
together.
dum. Dum da da. Oh, they're all melting together.
They're all melding together.
Melting together.
together,
All right.
yeah.
We will clean your palate. My apologies for the hour and a half that you did have to allegedly suffer, but it made this video much more entertaining. So thank you for that.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to show me on the puppet where they hurt you during the thing? You're going to survive this one. Hey, you just watched The Meg 2. Was that better than No Time to Die? It was, wasn't it?
Well, it was a lot of action.
I got to watch The Meg
Yeah,
2.
it was pretty good.
All right, that's a bold statement. Well, listen, Mr. Hazard, can I call you Mark at this point?
Why not?
I don't know why not. The whole thing is
Don't
weird.
call me late for dinner.
And other dad jokes. Thank you for coming on again.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate your absolutely scintillating insight. That's all we can do. Mark Hazard, ladies and gentlemen, and of course this has been David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. We want your comments below. What do you think of No Time to Die 2 years on? Put it in the comment range and I'll read every single one of them. I'm kind of curious. In the meantime, we got that palate cleanser to do. This has been David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. We'll see you soon. Take care. I just wanted to see like how long it would be until that freaked you out. You actually held it pretty long. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond Experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.